Greetings, Diocese of Olympia, and all those who might be watching. Among the monumental changes we are seeing in all it means to be church in these days, none is more onerous than the property and buildings which it is our responsibility to steward and care for. New building and renovation is going on even now, or is being planned, and yet for many those years have ended. And now the task is keeping up with a physical plant that now often outsizes the congregation that's using it. The specific issue of concern among all of the day-to-day concerns is what is often referred to as deferred maintenance. This is the ongoing upkeep required for buildings and property that should be on some regular schedule that for whatever reason is not, and often therefore is not being addressed. A roof is a very good example of an issue that should not, and in many cases finally cannot, be ignored. But there are many others. Since the beginning of my episcopacy, this has been a concern of all in governance here, but especially the board of directors of the diocese, whose job it is to oversee, manage, and educate regarding our diocesan capital assets. We want to change this pattern of behavior, but even more, the use of the term deferred maintenance. We would like to turn this around to a more positive approach. Instead of deferred maintenance, calling it ongoing and regular maintenance. So this video is designed to be a help and a guide to all of you who are tasked with the very real stewardship issue in your local context. We are so very blessed to have a great board of directors, a group that is dedicated and very focused right now on this issue, and working for them and me, the Reverend Dennis Tierney, who on your behalf is the one on my staff focused on these very issues. It's my pleasure now to introduce him to you and to invite you to listen to this short but very helpful introduction to the issue of ongoing maintenance in our churches.
So I'm Dennis Tierney, and I serve as the property manager for the Diocese of Olympia. It's all about mission. You want to have a place where people can go to do things that are important to the mission of the congregation. So maintaining your building is not just about Sunday morning worship. It's about the outreach activities, about making the physical location of the church what is called in sociology a third place. It's not work, it's not home, but it's a place where people can gather to do important things. I got a call when I was the rector at St. Barnabas from a woman that worked with women who were exiting abusive relationships. And they needed a place to meet with those women, but they did not want anybody to know where they were meeting. So we quietly arranged for them to meet at St. Barnabas. We never put it in our calendar. We never advertised it. We never said we were doing this because we wanted to respect the privacy and the safety of the people. And we didn't charge them a penny. And I had that joy and privilege of being able to say, hey, meet at our place for nothing, because the congregation was supporting the base underlying facilities. And I think many churches do that. And I think that that's a powerful part of being committed to the Jesus movement. The other piece that I think congregations sometimes forget is that they are stewards for a long time. And so they inherited a building, and they need to keep the campsite as good as it was when they found it, if not better, because they're not going to be the only people worshiping there. Turns out that the diocese owns a fair amount of property, and my job is to try to help the diocese manage that property, but also to help other congregations manage their properties in a way that is financially sustainable and effective in keeping with our concern for the environment. But one of the challenges of being church, particularly here in the Pacific Northwest, the money is almost always kind of tight. And the challenge is that congregations, when faced with hard budgetary decisions, often tend to put off the kind of maintenance that they really should do for the long term. When they get into those situations where they put off things, often end up having bigger problems in the end. When I was a kid growing up, there was an ad for Fram oil filters. And the tagline of that ad was,
"Choice is yours. You can pay me now or pay me later."
The assumption was you could pay a small amount now and change your oil filter, or you could pay me a lot later and have your engine replaced. And that kind of notion, I think, is what gets congregations in difficulty, is that they put off the small expense and then end up having huge expenses that they sometimes can't afford. We live in a wet environment, in case anybody hadn't noticed. So roofs are enormously important in the Pacific Northwest, and keeping the moss off the roof, making sure that your gutters and downspouts drain the water from the roof away from the building. When you don't do that, water wicks its way back in and begins to deteriorate the fundamental structure of the building and creates what's known in the trade as dry rot. It creates mold, which is not good for human beings and other creatures. So maintaining the external structure of the building can save a great deal of money. We had a church not too long ago. They needed a new roof, and when we opened up the roof, we discovered that there was dry rot, and that more than doubled the cost of the repair. Many congregations are taking very good care of their property. One of the characteristics of those congregations is that they have an active property or buildings and grounds committee, and they often will have periodic building inspections done. Because a lot of times people may not know. You can hire a building inspector for not that much money, and once you get over the shock of all the things that are wrong, then you can begin to work on it. And then I think the third issue, and this is the hardest one, but to create a building maintenance endowment fund. You know, the classic rainy day fund, because the challenge to all buildings is that they deteriorate. And thinking about that and figuring out if there's any way you can set aside money now is an important thing to do. You get into these problems slowly, and you get out of them slowly. So you start a plan, it's like going on a diet. You say, all right, my target is to lose weight, so that took me 20 years to get to this weight. It's likely to take me 20 years to get back to the weight I want to be. The Diocese of Olympia has been blessed by generous people who have given money to the diocese for these very purposes. So, for example, diocesan headquarters, where we are today, has endowment monies for its maintenance. But we have general funds that have been set aside over the years through our diocesan investment fund, and those funds generate interest and dividends that can be used for maintenance needs and concerns in the properties owned by the board of directors. Some parishes have endowment funds for maintenance. Not as many as we would like, but some. And that's the source of income. The board of directors and I tried to put together a readable, accessible guide for congregations to say, well, what should we be thinking about and what can we do? And there's very practical recommendations in there about how do you start to attack the issue. And it tries to do a little teaching and why you should care about this and how you can get yourself out of the fix you're in. And the whole notion about maybe later is that that's a bad idea. We have now some wonderful videos taken by Dr. Roof. When he has done repair work around the diocese for us, he sent me videos of what the roofs look like. And they're kind of terrifying when you look at what dry rot looks like that's been going for 15 years. The board of directors is in the process of establishing a program to assist congregations in getting professional judgments of the state of their properties, and then to work with those congregations to address some of the issues, particularly safety and liability issues, but all of them in the end. In our efforts to try to help congregations, we're not blaming anybody. This happens to the best of us. We all should have an endowment fund for maintenance. We all should, clean our gutters, and we don't. But we're trying to help congregations get a plan initiated and sustained. And I can't emphasize enough, it's you work at it all the time. It's continuous improvement. I'd be happy to meet with congregations, bishops' committees, and with vestries to say, so tell me what you're thinking about, and here are some steps you have to take, and here are some things you should think about. And I would much prefer to do that earlier in the process rather than at the 11th hour. Caring for your building is not idolatry. It's not a misapplication of the gospel message. It's, in fact, spot on. We could sell all of our buildings and all go to the tent of meeting. But I think we would lose something in our communities. I think churches can be places of welcome. I think it enables us to think expansively about mission and makes sure that the people who come on our properties are safe and welcomed. So it's true, the second coming could occur tomorrow. But I wouldn't build my maintenance plan on that assumption.
I want to thank Dennis for his dedication and passion for this area of our common life. We are blessed to have him. If you have any questions about any topic on this video, please don't hesitate to call my office to ask for Dennis and or me. We're here to help you in any way we can. Thank you, and may the blessings of our brother Jesus be yours today and always.